So there's a quotation by Pablo Picasso who talks about the meaning of life is finding your gift, and the purpose of life is giving it away. So our motivation for this teaching is, may you find your own happiness and share that with others, which is practicing generosity. So I hope you find this valuable.
And as we head into the discussion session, just think about your motivation for tonight, for being here in this particular session, your motivation for being part of a group practice or a group community, your motivation for taking a spiritual path. Like what is that? What does that mean for you?
And there will be a opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation.
All right, so our presentation is based on the Four Noble Truths. And what exactly is that? So Khenpo Sudarji says, Shakyamuni Buddha taught us 84,000 Dharma doors, which can be summed up into the Four Noble Truths. So literally 4 teachings can sum up or summarize Buddha's 84,000 Dharma teachings. The summary of that then can be summarized into just one sentence. And this is a quote from Buddha himself: suffering I teach, and the cessation of suffering. So our discussion tonight is going to be based on this: suffering I teach, and the cessation of suffering. So what exactly are the Four Noble Truths? They're the first teaching given by Buddha or Siddhartha after his enlightenment. They're the foundation of all Buddhist philosophy and practice, and they begin the path from samsara or cyclic existence and takes us all the way toward liberation. And then we'll give you some historical context. So we talked about motivation at the beginning. What's your motivation for being here? Your motivation for being in group study or group practice? And so in the historical context, we're going to talk about Buddha's or Siddhartha's motivation for this teaching of the Four Noble Truths.
So if you look at Buddha's early life, when he was born as a prince, when he was little, his father wanted to find out about his future. So he invited 3 fortune tellers to come and look at Buddha's life and see what he was going to be like. So 2 of these fortune tellers said that Buddha was going to be a king. And then the other one said Buddha would be a spiritual leader who's going to help the world. So the father was more interested in making him become a king. So what he did was he built 4 palaces for the Buddha to grow up in, and they were meant to give him everything that he needs to become a king. While he was in these 4 palaces, he had the idea that he wanted to go outside the palaces to see what the world was like, which is something that his father was trying to avoid. But what happened was that during the night, Buddha managed to convince one of his servants to take him outside the palace gates. So series of nights he actually went out with this servant, and he met a sick person that he's never seen before, and asked the servant, you know, what's this guy? And the servant said, well, it's a sick person, and you know, it can happen to anyone. And then the next one that he came across was an elderly person. And again, Buddha asked, you know, what's this? And the servant explained that everyone gets old. And then the next one that they came across was a corpse. a dead person that Buddha never knew about, and then the servant explained that that can happen to anyone, does happen to everyone. And then they came across a mendicant or guy who was looking for a monk. So that again, he asked what that was about, and the servant explained that he was this monk was trying to find a way out of the suffering. So when he came back to the palace, Buddha then decided that he wanted to leave the palace life and try and find his own path, because he was quite upset with what he found out about the real life. So then he left the palace and decided to become a monk, and he traveled around. By after giving up everything, he traveled around, and he met other monks or other guys who were trying to do a similar thing, trying to find a way out. And Buddha followed some of these guys, and they were more teaching meditation, and Buddha worked with two of them and achieved high states of meditation, but he still didn't feel that was the end. He wanted to find a way out rather than just meditation. So he conquered higher stages of meditation, and then he decided to go on himself. And during that period, he actually met another group of guys who were actually giving up everything and trying to live a really hard life by not eating, such like. So Buddha followed the same method for 6 years and didn't eat much. And he got really weak and very close to death. And Buddha then decided that that wasn't the right path. So he then decided to take a meal. When the other guys saw Buddha doing that, they thought Buddha had given up the search, and they wanted to leave Buddha and not take him seriously. But what Buddha did was then, after taking the meal, he actually said to himself that he was going to spend one night under this tree, which is called the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, that he was not going to get up until he's found a way out. So in that one night, he had stages 1, 2, and 3. In stage 1, he came across visions of his own previous existence, his own previous lives, and how he came to be in this life. So he understood rebirth. And then the second stage, he had visions of deaths and rebirths of all living beings, not only his own life, but everybody else's life. And he saw this cycle of birth and death. And then stage 3, he understood the 4 noble truths. So which are, the first one is the truth of dissatisfaction, how the life is suffering, just human life is suffering. And then he found out what's the reason for this dissatisfaction. And then the next one is how to overcome this problem of dissatisfaction and the cause of dissatisfaction. And then he came up with a path that will lead us away from dissatisfaction into awakening.
And just to add here that before awakening, he was known as Siddhartha. To be called a Buddha or given the title of Buddha, it actually means awakened one. So the Four Noble Truths, what exactly are they? We're still gonna dissect this a little bit more, discuss it. So Buddha, once he got awakened or enlightened, he decided, first he said he wasn't gonna teach at all. And then he got to the point after some convincing that he was gonna teach. He had a conversation with one of his followers who said that there's some people who have little dust in their eyes. So there's some people who would, because he thought that people wouldn't be ready for the truth of suffering and cessation and just existence itself being suffering. And then he met with a disciple who said, yeah, there are few people or some people who actually have little dust in their eyes. So they have the ability to understand these teachings. So if you have the knowledge, why would you not support those people? And so the Buddha decided to teach. So his first teaching was these Four Noble Truths, and he did 3 sermons on these Four Noble Truths.
And these sermons were given to the 4 guys who was with Buddha before he started taking that meal. Even though they left him, once Buddha discovered the Four Noble Truths, he went back to those guys and gave these sermons.
So the first sermon he stated, or in the first sermon he stated that this is suffering, referring to samsara, cyclic existence. It is oppressive. This is the cause of suffering. It beckons or it calls to us, cyclic beings. This is the cessation of suffering. It can be realized, and this is the way it can be cultivated. Then his second sermon, if you notice, he goes up a little bit more in his thinking or sharing. This is suffering. You should know it. This is the cause of suffering. You should cut it out. This is the cessation of suffering. You should realize it. So be fully aware that it is what it is. This is the way you should cultivate it. And then he gave the third sermon, same place in Bodh Gaya. This is suffering. I already know it. So he's saying, I have the experience. I know this for real. I have the realizations. This is the cause of suffering. I have already cut it off. This is the cessation of suffering. I have realized it, that there is cessation. It can be stopped. And this is the way. I have already cultivated it. And he shared the way with us. All right, so we have this brief medical analogy of the Four Noble Truths to help just bring it into realistic everyday terms. So when you think of the Four Noble Truths as a teaching, we can see, or any teaching, any Buddhist teaching, we can see the Buddha as a doctor. So he's this great physician who diagnoses illnesses, tells us what's going on. He's skilled, has experience, has learning. The Buddha, right? As we just said, he went through all these things, the austerity, the seeing the true nature of suffering, the reality of it. He's cultivated the way as he just stated in those sermons. And he's sharing that with us. What he's sharing with us is the Dharma, what we know today as the Dharma, and that would be considered as a medicine in this analogy. So it's the actual teachings and practices that we can do to get out of samsara. And then we have the nurse or pharmacist, people who help us, a spiritual community, people who support us. They're the medical attendants in the analogy who guide and support the patient. They share the medicine with us. They encourage us to take the medicine. They ensure that we have the correct doses. So those would be our teachers, our spiritual guides. And then cessation comes at the end of that. So when you put all those together, it leads to cessation, but that is the implementation of the treatment plan. And what we should point out here is that that's your responsibility, or that's our responsibility. We have to take the medicine once it's been given to us. So Buddha can lay out the path. He can tell us what we need. We can have spiritual community and friends who support us and say, here is how it should be done. But if we don't do any of that, then there's no getting out of the suffering or cyclic existence.